40 under Principal Felder. And my question is about, as frivolous as it may sound, next year, and what may be a determining schedule as far as the reopening of full-time in-person learning for the 2021-22 academic year. And I guess I'm just trying to speak quickly and just voice some concern that the DOE may not feel like they're encumbered to have to make a decision about that until the very latter part of this next summer. And I know that there are quite a few parents that are going to be hoping that we can get some hard information and a commitment from the DOE far prior to August. Is there any sense about when or how that decision is going to be made? How much vaccine, determining information is the city going to need for the DOE to make a firm decision about 2021-22?
Joshua, we don't usually answer questions during the public session, so that's a comment. We will do what we can to pass on all of the questions to the Chancellor. The one thing that I would note for the record is that the vaccines that will hopefully be approved this Friday and next Friday, and all of the subsequent ones, have been tested in age groups 18 and higher. So the pediatric clinical trials are ongoing, and it's unlikely we will have any kind of scientific evidence of their efficacy in those groups until sometime this summer. We ran out of time, but I was going to ask the Chancellor the question about whether or not teachers will be mandated to have a vaccine and other school workers. So that is an open question right now. So then we have Kaushik Das.
And you're unmuted.
Hi, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is directed a little bit towards one of the questions that was asked to the Chancellor, specifically by Eric Goldberg. Eric, I've called you on this before, but you did it again tonight. And I know you don't have to answer this, but I respectfully submit that somebody does. You represented to the Chancellor that the majority of D2 parents want to unscreen schools. You clearly haven't been listening. The majority of D2 parents do not want this. This is something perceived by you and some of your colleagues. If you recall, at the various engagement events in Manhattan, 70% of 30 speakers preferred keeping screens. At the overall citywide engagement, a supermajority, 81% of 64 speakers wanted to keep high-performing school standards. And on top of that, there was a poll taken amongst PTAs by the President's Council. I believe Len would have the statistics on this, but I think it was 2/3 to 3/4 of the PTA members wanted to maintain academically screened schools. Why do you continue to misrepresent how D2 feels about on this matter? Can you or someone else in the council please address in this meeting? It is not only disingenuous, but just outright fraudulent is too strong a word for something like CEC, but look, you're outright lying, dude. Please answer. I yield the rest of my time.
So Kaushik, as I noted in replying to the last speaker, we don't actually usually answer questions during the public session, but here we go. So
I am aware, I'm calling him out.
If there is anyone else that would like to participate in this first public session, please raise your hand if you can't get to our Google form. Otherwise, that link will still be up for our second public speaking session. So I see there's 2 people with their hands raised, Len. Why don't we start with Lorrie Giventer?
I can't. Oh, hi, yeah. You hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, yes.
My child's an 8th grader at Middle Lab, and I actually have been remote schooling him all year long. And I was really hopeful that if the school would go full remote, that people would realize there was no more reason to keep this sort of hybrid schedule, right? Like, I guess my question is there, it would be great if the schools would reconsider being asynchronous 1/3 of the time. It would be great if the schools would consider having breaks and lunch for the students. I understand why these things couldn't happen when there were children in school, but there are no longer children in school, and there frankly isn't really an end. I mean, we don't really see an end to this before maybe February.
Thanks, Lori. Next, Lupe Hernandez.
Hello?
Yep, you are unmuted.
Thank you. I just, two things. I support, and I just want to thank all the council members for those that are supporting parents like myself and a bunch of others that may not have the means to come to these meetings. That's why I represent some of them. And we thank you, Eric, and some of the other board members for advocating on our behalf in eliminating the screen schoolings.
Thank you, Lupe. And thank you also for your participation last week at the remote learning forum that we held. Unless anybody else wants to raise their hand in the next 5 seconds, Edward.
I see a combo.
So now,
do you?
And Anais.
Len, do you see them? Because I'm looking at the participant list. I don't see that.
So I think I'm unmuted. If I can speak, that would be.
Please, we can hear you. So now go ahead.
You can hear me. Okay, great. Okay, so I have stayed silent on so many of these meetings, but I would like to say, without asking questions of anybody on this council, that I think it is very disingenuous to talk about majorities of parents wanting screen schools when the majority of the parents who attend these meetings are recruited, are given scripts, are basically lobbied to come and share their opinions. I think that there is a real disingenuous political system that is happening around screen schools. I have 2 children in screen schools. I have no shame in admitting that. I think screen schools are racist and they are damaging, and I have many opinions on those, but I do feel very strongly that the pro-screened community talks about, well, 80 people showed up and 60 people were pro-screen. Well, yes, we all know, if you are a parent in D2 at any school where there are active parents, we all know that there is a lot of lobbying that gets done for parents to come and speak. So, you know, until and if and when we have real data, not privileged, I know how to navigate the system data on what families want, I think we should really be careful to criticize, to post or base any argument on the fact that, you know, 40 parents out of 60 who spoke are pro-screen. It's just meaningless, guys. Like, let's just be honest about what actually happens at these meetings, who comes and speaks. I've been to a lot of live meetings over the last couple of years. I've sat on every single one of these, and, you know, it's just, it doesn't make any sense, frankly. Screen schools aside, I actually am not in the keep schools open category of parents. Both of my children are 100% remote learning. Do I have more time?
Not much. Please finish.
So then I will just go back and say, on the screened issue, which is an important issue to me, there are ways for us to resolve this issue without all Black children are dumb. And if people were smarter, they would get into these screen schools. It has been for a year and a half the most disgusting thing. My children are half Black. They are in screen schools. I went to Ivy League schools. I am a product of really privileged education. And the way that this conversation has gone around children of color, I don't care how privileged you are or not, is disgusting. And I think that there are people on the pro-screen side who really need to acknowledge what the basis of this conversation is, what the baselines are, and what the parameters are, and not
5 seconds.
Things that people are saying. Done.
Thank you for your opinion. Megan Zipkin, I see you have your hand up.
Hi, thank you so much, and thank you for everybody for your hard work. I'm a parent of a kindergarten student in District 2, and I just wanted to raise my voice in support of what Ms. Patel was saying as well. I also agree with elimination of the school screening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ishmael, we had one more parent. Anais?
Yes, this doesn't have anything to do with screened schools. I'm a parent of two District 2 students, and I have huge issues around privacy and the way the DOE, through use of, as much software as our children are using, and also software, and also testing. I have questions about how much our children's data is being protected. And I know it's one testing company that is doing all the testing for District 2, Fulgent Genetics. And from what I understand, they haven't ever put out a very, very clear statement saying that they are not collecting data. And I'm not willing to, accept that my daughter's information could possibly use. I just want a very clear statement, which we haven't gotten from the DOE. And yeah, that's my concern, because I've contacted the mayor and the chancellor and I haven't gotten any sort of response.
Thanks for that, Anais. People wave your hands or raise your hand through the participant function, or we will move on.
See George Patras.
Yes.
George, go ahead.
A District 2 parent, I just felt insulted by the opening statement of the CEC board member that gave an opinion that was his own and didn't represent myself and didn't represent, I believe, the entire board. And it made it seem to Chancellor Carranza that was the view of our District 2 team. I think that's a disservice and it's undemocratic. I just want to say I was insulted by that, and I think it's out of line.
High school at this time. Thank you, George. Anyone else? Last call. Edward, back to you.
Thank you, Ushma. Thank you very much. Well, now we have the report of the president. I don't have much to report. We did just have the town hall meeting. We did receive very many questions, questions that I thought, deserve answers to. Questions like the SHSAT, the testing schedule, and so forth and so on. And all of these questions are going to be forwarded to the Chancellor's office. I also spoke with Michelle Chang about new blending learning expectations today. For students to maintain in-person seats, students attending school in person must attend school on their scheduled in-person days. I know there was an issue of attendance not counting before, and many people signed up for blended learning, and because attendance would not count or not be held against them if they didn't appear, then a lot of families were not sending their students in. And I believe that that's a disservice to a lot of students that want to go in. There are a limited number of seats and resources are scarce. So I agree with this latest initiative to count attendance if you have signed up for a blended learning situation. We were also told of free community meals. New York City is committed to making free meals available to all New Yorkers. So while the school buildings are closed, students and families can still go to nearby school buildings for takeout meals. So with that, I have nothing further. Emily, Vice President Hellstrom, if you have anything to add, I yield the floor to you. Recognize you.
Thank you so much. I don't have very much to add. I know that parents have been in a little bit of a whiplash with school starting and stopping and starting, but I do believe that the chancellor spoke to some of that and how difficult it is to run a school system with 1.1 million children. So, I think we heard a lot tonight. And yeah, I was really excited to have Mary Ann there as the acting superintendent, and always to have Marisol. I guess the one other thing that I would say is I know that we had technical difficulties at our listening session the other night, and I will take some of the blame for that. So it was partly my fault. I'm not particularly technically savvy, although you would think by now I would have it down. In any case, we do still have a Google form that's open that I believe is posted on our website, and we can send that out again if people want to share some of the ideas and best practices that they're seeing at their schools. Lorrie, I know in particular you had some ideas, so I just want to make sure that that is still open for people, and we hope to do one again in the new year. So that was not your only opportunity.
Great. Now we have the report of the superintendent.
Wait, Ed, can I just make a really quick announcement from the diversity committee?
Go right ahead.
Thank you. It's not a committee meeting thing, but diversity committee is going to be hosting a Know Your Rights for Immigrants with the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Services, or immigrant something, I can't remember the last letter. That is going to be happening sometime in January. We're going to be hosting one in Mandarin only, and we'll be hosting another one in English, and we hope to host another one in Spanish as well. And this is services available to immigrants in New York City. So that was just a quick announcement I wanted to make.
Great. Okay. Now the report of the superintendent. I don't know if you have anything to add, Mary Ann, Sheppard.
Hi, yes, I'd love to add just a few things. But first, good evening to the families, principals, teachers, and staff who are on the call, and council members. It's a pleasure to be here and to support the district during this time of transition. As our executive superintendent conducts the hiring process for our new superintendent, the district team, many of members who are on this call right now, are committed to supporting our school leaders in the schools under our executive superintendent's leadership and with her support. During these challenging times, many of us have become accustomed to change, but the district team is here committed to providing a sense of support and continuity. If it's all right, I'd love to just share a couple of quick district updates and some areas of celebration. I had some items that I was going to talk to, but the chancellor spoke to them. So for time's sake, I'll just kind of move right through. But the first was yesterday, school reopened for in-person learning for pre-K to grade 5 students. And it was really heartwarming to see how excited many of the students were to return to school. Our reopening was smooth. And I would like to echo our chancellor's earlier remarks and just say thank you to our principals, teachers, and staff for working so hard to welcome back the students who were returning, and also those who were joining blended learning for the first time. And to the families who have opted to remain remote, we remain committed to supporting you and your child or children as well. A few areas of district work going on. Our District 2 attendance team continues to meet weekly to study attendance patterns and to support schools. Currently, our average attendance year to date is 96%. In partnership with our Manhattan attendance director, we're currently planning targeted professional learning opportunities designed to support our school attendance teams. Ed, a little bit to your point, our attendance work looks different in this environment. And so we want to help our schools navigate that. Our professional learning has always been grounded in classroom visits. Obviously, that's where the learning happens. And so we've been visiting classrooms virtually to observe teacher practice and to look at the teacher practice as well as the resulting student work. A big thank you to the District 2 teachers who have welcomed us into their virtual classroom. During these visits, we're looking at how students are being engaged, affirmed, supported, and challenged. And afterwards, we debrief our observations and discuss what the coaching support conversation could focus on with the teachers. So we continue to bring our school leaders together to conduct in these visits with a focus on rigorous and engaging instruction, the priority standards, we heard Marisol speak to that a little bit earlier, and culturally responsive practices. And Ben, I want to know a comment that you made at the Thursday night session actually prompted some office hours and learning opportunities where we're bringing teachers together who are using a shared curriculum so that they can share best and promising practices.
It's great.
Our district equity team continues to meet bi-weekly to carry out our culturally responsive and sustaining work and our student leadership empowerment work that we're committed to this year with the support of the Office of Equity and Access and the Minor Collective. As we look to measure our impact and refine our practices, and some of you heard me speak to this on Thursday night, we must collect the quantitative data that we've always collected to measure impact and to see how is our teaching and our systems working for kids, but also collecting that qualitative data so that we have a holistic understanding of student and family experience. To that end, the district team is committed to working with our principals and parent coordinators to convene some upcoming listening sessions to create spaces where we can engage with our families and to hear about their experience. And then just to kind of conclude, oftentimes we're focusing on what's not working, and that's important because that's the work of continuous improvement and refinement. However, I do want to take a moment to share some areas of celebration across our district as well. So PS 51 found out actually just earlier this week, they've been awarded a grant from the charitable giving team at ING. The focus of this grant is to provide their families in temporary housing with educational and employment supports. So I want to just give a quick shout out to the PS 51 team and Students in Temporary Housing Liaison Iris Gersten for all of their efforts in securing this grant. Some of the other things I want to share is really to show how some of the literacy work is showing up across the district. So in a partnership with the Chatham Square Library, Mark Sheverton, the author of the famous Minecraft series, visited remotely to do a creative writing workshop with the 4th grade students at PS 126 MAT. And the workshop was a 4-week-long series and focused on supporting reluctant writers to write their story. In addition to receiving a copy of the author's first book, the students will also have their stories bound and printed as a collection, as a book, that with a cover designed by the author, and all of the students will receive a copy of that book. So there was a lot of excitement and enthusiasm for the kids during that process. And with some of our future leaders over at Wagner Middle School, as a new Civics for All school, the 7th grade social studies classes participated this fall in the Soapbox NYC program, where they prepared speeches about an issue of importance to them. And actually just today, I believe it was today, 2 Wagner students presented their speeches to civic, business, and philanthropic leaders as part of the citywide preliminary rounds. So congratulations to those students. Going to one of our elementary schools on Friday, I had the pleasure of joining the PS 212 Midtown West community for their community meeting. And during the meeting, the 4th grade students were sharing their recently published stories with incredible enthusiasm. And they also shared their reflections on what they had learned as a writer during that unit. You could see, in addition to the students' enthusiasm, you could see the enthusiasm on the faces of the parents as well. So shout out to the Midtown West 4th graders for doing such a great job. And at our Lower Manhattan Community Middle School, students kicked off their unit. This is another case where students had an opportunity to engage directly with an author. Students kicked off their unit about social justice by reading A Step from Heaven. And then they had the privilege of meeting author Anne Na just yesterday. During that time, students also heard about her family's immigrant experience and the growing popularity of Korean culture in America. Students had much to say about how grateful they were in their thank you notes to Ms. Na. And then lastly, one other middle school, City Knoll Middle School, is continuing their partnership with an organization called Suit Up. So with Suit Up, groups of students work with coaches to solve real corporate challenges, such as designing a new product for Nike. At the end of the week, students present their product to a panel of judges. And one example of a winning team over at City Knoll was Grow With Your Shoe, a shoe that can be customized to grow as your feet grow. So certainly some creative thinking there. And I know I'm curious to hear more about that project. So just wanted to take an opportunity to share some of the experiences that are happening with our kids across the district. So that's my report. Thank you for your time and for this opportunity to share.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marianne. And thank you for stepping up and taking the role of the interim superintendent. It sounds like you've done a lot of work. That last item sounds like a Shark Tank product that you might want to get in on. But anyway, now we have the question of the minutes. I don't believe the minutes are ready yet for approval. So
I think we have committee reports. I'm just looking at the agenda.
Yeah, I see that. Any chairperson of, I apologize, any chairperson of any committee have anything for us in the way of a report? Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to announce that tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, we have our student in temporary housing meeting. Ushma, I don't know if you want to speak to it as well. I was just hoping to get some ideas from the community. Maybe I think there seems to be some disconnect between what the DOE is saying. There was a lawsuit filed on November 25th. Thousands of families in shelters still don't have Wi-Fi access. So, I mean, maybe talking about cutting through the red tape and figuring out what these families actually need could be a subject for tomorrow. There just appears to be a disconnect. There's a lot of supplies that these kids don't have. I mean, we talk about all the great things that have been done, but I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm hoping to partner with the community to get that done. Ushma, I don't know if you want to add to anything.
Just underscore exactly what you just said, which is that I've gotten a couple of emails following on from the D2 projects that were launched in the spring, where schools partnered with specific shelters to help them supply things like toiletries and school supplies. And a lot of those schools have reached back out because they're interested in doing it again. So I think the point for tomorrow's discussion is going to be trying to figure out how best to bring the community and students in temporary housing together such that we can benefit the most people with the largesse of our really wonderful and giving community. So
I have a question.
All are encouraged to attend.
I have a question. The tablets, the iPads that were given out in the spring had cellular data built in. So why is it, are they new ones? Are they sending out ones now without cellular data and just Wi-Fi access? Because that sounds insane. I mean, why did they stop providing cellular data?
Isn't that what he said though, like in the town hall, that the devices that are being given to students that are in shelters all have these LTE cards such that they would be able to be cellular data enabled. Marianne, is that correct? That was my understanding from what the chancellor said.
That was my understanding, and what I've heard both anecdotally as well as from Department of Ed officials is that one provider works better in some places over the other, and so they're swapping them out. But the iPads that are being delivered now are Wi-Fi enabled.
With cellular data or without? I mean, you could do both at the same time.
Cellular.
You meant
they all got the LTE cards.
Yeah, he did say that, but he said that they weren't working in some areas and there were two providers. So.
Yeah, some of the shelter buildings on the internal part of the building, it's true at 333 7th Avenue as well. That room has no cell reception depending on the carrier. So some of the shelters, yes, there are LTE enabled iPads, but there's just such poor reception, students cannot access the internet. And there's no Wi-Fi in some of these shelters.
Right. He actually asked me for an idea of how to get buildings hardwired in less than 7 months. Typically, when I move to a residence, I just call up either Spectrum or Optum or whatever the other one is, Verizon, and they're there within a week. So
that's if there's existing pre-wired.
Right, that's true. But what building? I mean, these are hotels for the most part.
So tune in tomorrow night at
7 p.m. We can discuss.
We can have more discussion about this.
Thank you, Ushma.
Okay. Shino, did you have anything else for diversity? I know you mentioned the upcoming meeting.
Yep, no, just the Know Your Rights. Once we have all the flyers and dates together, I'll be sending it out to the whole community.
Okay.
And
great.
just a brief update on the Students with Disabilities Committee. We combined this time with the listening evening, but we are looking to do our next meeting specifically around paras and how to, just like your rights with paras, what problems, issues, everything sort of focused on paras. We're looking for a date, and I've got some people who might want to come and speak in a panel. So stay tuned.
Okay. As I mentioned before, the minutes are not ready for approval. We will present and discuss bylaws revisions. I want to yield the floor to Robin, who's been doing quite a bit of work on this and is very well versed with the proposed changes. She can introduce the subject, and everyone, of course, can contribute to the discussion. So, Robin, on the Bible.
So I picked up the baton recently, but this was truly a lot of collaboration that has taken place among every member of the council. It started in August, and I know that Maud and Len did a lot of work, and Shino and Eric were at some bylaw committee meetings as well. So I really do think that everyone had a really important role in getting us to this spot. And so on December 12th, we had a working business meeting that was open to the public. It's up on our YouTube channel right now, if anyone wants to listen, where we took the changes that had been proposed so far and had a really full discussion, especially the first, I'd say, hour or so. Went through line by line the changes that had taken place during the bylaws committee's meetings, and I'd say just sort of fine-tune some of the points. I think it was almost done. So it's really up to everyone on this council to decide how close we are to its approval. So we've shared on our website to the public and also amongst the council the product that everyone who is on through the end of the working business meeting agreed on. In theory, that could be it. And then our obligation is to have shared it at a calendar meeting according to the current bylaws that are in effect. And if there's no changes, we can get feedback from the public at at our second public session. We didn't hear any at our first public session. Then what would happen is in January, we would vote on what's been presented today. So really at this point, what I want to do is open this up as a conversation to the rest of the council to say, are you comfortable with the proposed new bylaws that have been shared? Are there areas on the margins that you think need to be tweaked? Just a reminder, sometimes when you have bylaws, you do a kind of line by line approval of amendments. Our bylaws, the current bylaws we have are so old. What made sense was to kind of start from scratch, which is what had been done in the summer with a template from FACE, and then sort of made some changes that were specific to CEC2. And so what we would be doing is voting yes or no, up or down on a package of proposed amendments. We're not technically voting on new bylaws. We're voting on a package of amendments of that by sort of in practice are the new bylaws. So with that, I'll preamble, have at it, team. I see Ushma's hand is raised.
Well, I was one of the people that left the working business meeting after an hour because we had a different meeting. So I'm just wondering, scrolling to the very last page, it says Article 10, Code of Conduct, and then it's all about official communications. So can you just walk me through why we did not actually add any verbiage related to member code of conduct?
Yeah.
I think that was part of the discussion that I missed for leaving for the meeting with Marisol.
And now that you're mentioning it, I might not use that heading because you have an article and then a section 1, and I don't think that's elegant just from an organizational perspective. What had been in the version that was that had been the August version after section 1 with communications protocol, then there was another longer section about what were considered acceptable behaviors and during council meetings, and I think also maybe off council time. And there's still internally, I shared a Google Doc that you can go back and look at the version history and see what it all said. With the group of people that were left on the council at that meeting, there was, I'd say, consensus that there was discomfort about some of the pieces in the behavioral piece. So while not everyone agreed, there wasn't consensus on what things made people uncomfortable, but everyone was uncomfortable about something. And because we'd lost so many members of the council at that point of the meeting, we didn't feel comfortable, you know, continuing the conversation. And since our existing bylaws don't include that information, but also don't include a code of conduct, but also our existing bylaws are not really in compliance with what the legal department has instructed us, we decided that it would be better to take that out, put forward bylaws that address a lot of important issues around attendance and other things that we know need to be updated. And then we could, there's nothing stopping us from having additional conversations when everyone in the council is able to attend the meeting that specifically focuses on some of the behavior code of conduct and add that back in. So just because something's not in here doesn't mean that it's the end of the conversation. It just meant that we didn't feel comfortable at the end of that working business meeting making recommendations because we had lost so many people in that discussion. And we wanted to, you know, we do feel a sense of urgency to have something in place by January.
I would also add that there was some discussion about whether the code of conduct belongs actually in the bylaws or as more something like a house rules type of like less prescriptive and binding document and more like a code of conduct within a house rules.
And that's how some of the other councils that have passed the code of conduct has done. It's they didn't do it through the bylaws, but they just voted on this particular document as a separate standalone document, sort of a guidance document.
I can buy into that, but other than the fact that it says Article 10 Code of Conduct, and then there's nothing in there about it. So I don't want to be a stick in the mud for this, like being posted and then us not being able to vote on it in January, but this makes no sense to me that there would be reference to a code of conduct and then nothing be in
amend
about
it now, right? And still have it posted today.
Yeah, let's just strike that. Can we all agree to strike just that section and then pass it?
This is the perfect kind of thing to surface in this conversation. These kinds of like pieces at the margin that are just sloppy or whatever, and then we agree on like at the end of this discussion. So like that, it's not. Yes, I agree. So we're gonna strike code of conduct, and we could just call it Article 10 Communications Protocol.
Do I need to make a motion to do that, or we're going to make a motion at the end?
This is
conversation.
I think we don't have to.
You just have to present it
because we're just. This is a little. Even though we don't usually do working business at a calendar meeting, we can, and that's what this is. So we're just going to know that that's the amendment that's the change we're going to make to the verbiage there. We agree on it. It'll be the people in who are attending the meeting right now are witnessing that. So we will have presented it to the people logged in, to the public at this calendar meeting, and then we can still vote on it in January.
Right.
Okay.
Can I make one suggestion that your amendment revision be the last thing in the bylaws?
Yeah.
Can you just clarify?
The section on amendment revision. Just
amend your bylaws to be the last thing.
Got it. Yep. Thank
Good
you
idea.
for that.
You're welcome.
There was some discussion on the resolutions and the required number of co-sponsors. I think, Tom, you had some views on that, Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was addressed during the meeting. I eventually said that's fine as long as in new business we can present new resolutions in order to try and garner support. Just because for people, you know, working like myself, I work like 80 hours a week. It's hard to build consensus outside of the meetings. But maybe if it's introduced in new business during a meeting, you can build consensus during it, so you don't have to do too much work outside. but it's becoming a moot point because our term's coming to an end pretty soon. Not that I'm smiling.
No, but I think, Tom, that's a really important point, which is like, you know, we're informed by our experiences serving on the council as we're rethinking how to do the bylaws, but it's really a document that's a roadmap for whoever comes next. And so it's nice for us to sort of take the lessons that we've learned, but, you know, not make it too specific that it's just like, oh, that was the fight they had then that they're trying to fix now. But I do think that like the new business piece is a nice little roadmap bit to leave for the group that's coming in next, especially if there's going to be a lot of turnover, which I think there might be, not just, you know, because of who, you know, where we all are with our kids and stuff, but also because of the new election process.
I mean, if there is an election process, right? Because I mean, everything seems to be delayed. I mean, hopefully
they'll tell you someday.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll know in May whether
9 months.
In May.
In 10 months.
Yeah.
12 months. All right. So we have.
I would like to add something that the bylaws does not address. That we have social media. We have a Facebook page. We have a YouTube page.
It does.
A Twitter account. It does?
Yes.
Where is that?
Hold on one second.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong one.
Exactly where it is.
I brought that up at the meeting.
And the president or designee shall be responsible for the maintenance of the CEC website, monitoring CEC domain names, and the maintenance of any existing or approved related websites and social media accounts. Access to this information will be made available to council members upon request.
Right, well, that I saw. It's the posting of information. There are no guidelines. If you want to talk about a future framework, you know, we now are posting on our YouTube page a meeting that was not recorded by our council, which was the June 11th meeting. So are we going to start? You know, where do we go from here? Do we start posting videos that are, you know, that have nothing to do with the CEC Council? I think there has to be some guidelines on how we go forward, because that's a slippery slope. And also with Facebook, you know, I was thinking of creating a group page previously, but then after I saw what happened with our chat room, you know, we should speak to our Zoom platform and to our Facebook. There should be some guidelines that we agree as a council. That should be in the bylaw.
That could be a either an ad hoc or an ad hoc committee that a future council decides to create, a communications subcommittee that is, rather than being too prescriptive in the bylaws about what should and shouldn't be posted, that there would be that there can be a communications subcommittee, you know, with that will, where the future council would have a opportunity to reach consensus on how they want to approach those questions.
I just don't think it will get done, and it leaves for a lot of frustration, and it's fraught with disagreements if we don't have it straight out there in black and white.
Well, Ben, to the earlier point that Robin made, if we can amend these bylaws, I mean, I think that's a good idea that we do have, especially for posting. And I'm also confused as to why our own June 11th meeting isn't posted rather than an outside source. I didn't get that. But
it was not recorded from our CEC accounts.
Why don't we just post ours then? Does it not exist?
It did not record.
I recorded it as a co-host.
So what's the difference? I don't know the technical.
I don't know, Tom. I don't know what the difference is.
You could have.
So we had a Zoom account that was owned not by our CEC but by a council member.
Right, but that's the one that
was not an agreement that the council agreed on. It was just we were just using a Zoom account that belonged to a council member.
Like we're using yours right now.
Well, right now we are using an account that is owned by the CEC District 2. That
How
I
is it owned by the
tore
CEC?
out of my credit card because the P card wasn't approved, but it is owned by the CEC. It's the login is info@cecd2.net. That was a change that was made in November or October as soon as the leadership changed. And so anyone
does this matter?
I
mean,
know, but it keeps
I don't think
up,
this.
so I feel like
yeah.
we have to address it.
Okay.
So anyway,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Robin. Go ahead.
it's fine. I think that I think these bylaws are, I think they address a lot of the issues that we've run up against in this council, and also that we had been told in the past by legal department, don't pass muster around attendance and stuff. So
I think at this point, these are presented, and if anyone wants to make amendments to the next round, we have something we could vote on at the next meeting. If there's further revisions, let's make further revisions. But I think we've done a lot of work, and let's.
Yes, I agree. And we'll vote on next meeting. Okay, so now moving right along.
I'm sorry, Ed, I just super quickly. I know we have to move on. I just want to make sure. So I just want to review the changes that we've agreed on are that we're going to move the amendment to the bylaws to the end, and we're going to retitle the code of conduct so that it doesn't refer to a code of conduct that doesn't exist.
Right.
Correct.
Anything else?
I just want to let the member of the public who has the raised hand know that there is a second public session. So I know that you are wishing to speak, but you'll have your turn when we go into the second session.
Okay. So I'm done presenting. It sounds like we're done discussing, and I will get the updated version. I'll work with that to make sure it's on the website tomorrow with the revisions we've discussed tonight.
Thank you, Robin. Great job. Very thorough. Thank you. Now, we don't have any resolutions, any draft resolutions. So we'll go right into the second public session.
And there is no one signed up on our Google form. So all we have is Stefan Lautner, who has raised his hand. If anybody else would please raise their hand or use the Google form, which I have posted on one of the other accounts that you can see the photo. And otherwise, Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Krishna, and Chino, appreciate the acknowledgement earlier. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Okay, I just had a question with regards to the bylaws. It seems to be that there had been a proposed change to the removal of officer section earlier that, because right now doesn't reflect a removal for cause, it's removal for any reason still. And so it just seems like political witch hunts are still possible. So it's disappointing to see the bylaws stand as they are right now.
Thank you for your comment. I do believe we will take this up in our rules of the road or whatever, the house rules that we will consider. So thank you for that, Stefan. And Kaushik, I see you also have your hand raised.
Hi, thank you. I just want to make one final clarification on an earlier point and additional comment. One, Mr. Goldberg, I called you out man to man. I see you did not respond, chose not to respond to me. I know you weren't required to, but I'm not surprised you did not. You clearly have proven yourself not a man, but a political manipulator. Misrepresentation and outright lying feels pretty comfortable to you. I can see that. Or perhaps you feel you did not need to respond because Ms. Sonal Patel spoke up for you to address her points. I would say it seems pretty convenient that you talk about speakers who show up are very politically connected because they're PTA presidents or SLT chairs or whatever. Yes, I agree.
It's very important. Wait, excuse me. Sorry. It is very important that when the public comes to speak, that we don't call out other members of the public. It is one of the most important things to have people who come to speak at our council meetings feel like they can speak without being referenced later in the evening. So if you, please continue.
I absolutely disagree. First, you're cutting into my time. I only get 2 minutes. You get unlimited time. Secondly, I am a parent leader who is calling out a CEC member for misrepresenting the truth. I absolutely have a right to do that.
No, absolutely.
Lastly,
first of all, you will have your full time. I'm just saying, please don't call out other members of the public who have spoken here this evening. That's all.
People do it all the time when it works in your benefit, but fine. I'll leave her name out of it. I find it convenient that people want to discount speakers who show up because they happen to be elected PTA or SLT members, even though that is our job to do this. I also find it convenient that you want to discount us, but highly organized ECC and press people who show up, we don't want to discount them. And especially when it's documented the ECC has an improper relationship with the DOE. But you want to dismiss all of that, that's fine. Let's forget that you also want to discount a survey done by the President's Council. Let's also forget that myself and several other people who want to promote accelerated education have actually requested a survey from the DOE and this district, and this CEC at this district chose to not do that. Also, lastly, I did not come here to discuss this, but the dialogue is that G&T and screen schools in relation to how they treat the Black population is disgusting. I agree how Blacks and Hispanics have not benefited from the education system in New York City, which is entirely the DOE's fault. I also find it disgusting how the DOE and the mayor's office speaks in regards to Asian families, because it has somehow become okay for to discuss Asians as white adjacent and privileged, even though we had no such privilege when all our parents immigrated here in the 70s. How do we get all this? I find that the United States and New York City has a piss poor record of dealing with Asians. And the dialogue is that white and Asians are crowding out Blacks and Hispanics in accelerated education programs. The reality is Asians have take up a high percentage of seats from white Blacks and Hispanics.
Thank you, Kaushik. Please conclude.
It's okay to disparage Asians for the benefit of this group. And lastly, I would remind that my kids are also half Hispanic in all.
All right, thank you, Kaushik. I see you have your hand raised, George, and we will get to you in a moment, but I also see that Matoko Shoboji beat you to the punch, and I saw her hand raised before, or his hand raised before. And Matoko, I'd like to say we appreciated all of your feedback on the Google form for the Chancellor's town hall.
Sorry. Yes, so first I really want to say thank you to all the CEC council members for working so hard, all of you working so hard for children of District 2. So I've lived in the US for more than 20 years, 10 years of which in New York, but I still struggle with public speaking in English especially, so I'm reading what I wrote, but I'm just not reading any script or anything written by anyone else. I just wanted to say that because I might look like I'm reading something, but it's coming from me. I actually really also felt a little uncomfortable in the town hall meeting earlier when Eric said to the chancellor as if all District 2 parents want to stop screen school. Most people who I know personally, you know, they almost all of them took GNT test, and the number, you know, of the people, the students who took the test really showed that how popular GNT is. And we should really expand GNT instead of eliminating it, and do the outreach to all the families about it. So, you know, they can have a chance. And maybe have some like a free, a little easy prep course of, you know, like 1 or 2 exams so that, you know, kids can just be prepared for it or something. And in my case, I didn't go to Ivy League school. We live in a 500 square feet, 1-bedroom apartment with family of 4. I do this, I live in super small place and I sacrifice all of my stuff. I do this because so I can give a good education to my kids. And I know so many people who are people of color, went to specialized high school and go out of poverty. I have a lot of friends like that. And for some rich people, it may not matter. You know, for those who went to Ivy League school, or for those who can maybe afford to go to private school or other schools, you know, your kids can probably have a better chance of going to the same Ivy League school. But for many, like me, GNT or the screen schools are the only way to get a good education. So anyways, I really want everybody to try to work together, because if we lose so many families from New York City, we lose funding also. So I really want to find a way to work together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Motoko. Appreciate it. We'll go to George Patras, then Sonal Patel. George,
you're on mute, George.
And I'll be 30 seconds. Very simple. I mean, the Goldberg type of shenanigans to hijack the limited time that we had with the chancellor has to be avoided. And the way you avoid is when the CEC board speaks to the chancellor, there has to be pre-agreed talking points, not Goldberg points, who misrepresented my view and the majority of the District 2 parents. So you as a board have to get together and agree. That's what we're telling Carranza tonight. It shouldn't be a Goldberg discussion. It should be a CEC District 2 discussion presenting what we believe as a families, not one person. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Sonal, your turn.
I'm going to keep this very short and sweet. I'm not really trying to engage in this forum. I will remind the Asian American and Asian families on this call that your sole existence in this country and the opportunities that you and your families have had since the 1970s, if that is when you came and there's sometime thereafter, was really based on the Black Civil Rights Movement. And I think that if we're going to talk about options of working together, I think that we all need to individually look at our histories and not our own privilege. What schools I went to has nothing to do with the economic situation of my family. If anybody on this chat happened to be referencing that, I'm not saying that anybody was. And frankly, I am more than happy to be personally attacked if that was also what was happening on this call. I have no problem with that. Bring it, call me personally. I will put my cell phone number in the chat. No issue with it. But I do want to really remind everybody, whether you're whatever race you are, that, you know, I said this so often in May and in June. We really, I think, in order to promote public education and promote real justice and fairness in this country, need to think about our own privileges and whose backs those privileges were built on. White people on this call don't really have to think about this, but I would really implore you know, the people of color who are engaged in this debate to think not only about what is important to your family, but also what is important for the existence of our communities in this country. That's all.
Thank you, Sonal. Can any other co-hosts see somebody with their hand raised? Otherwise, then I speak for all of my fellow council members in appreciating our parent community and their willingness to put themselves out there. Edward.
Thank you, Ushma. I move that we adjourn this meeting.
Well, we have to. Don't we have to vote on the bylaws, or no? Or that's next one. All right.
January.
Can we have new business, or can we have this forum open after adjournment just to discuss some of the things that were brought up, or do we have to close it out?
Working business.
We have a working business.
Working business.
Yeah.
And people can tune into that, and we could have new business during that. Just because someone brought up some substantive points that I'd like to address at some point. I mean,
okay.
You know.
So I move to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I have.
Second.
Okay, so we'll be back in 10 minutes.
10, 5, 10, yeah, 5. Okay.
5 minutes?
5 minutes? Okay, thanks.
5.
Am I allowed to informally talk during the, like we were actually at a meeting and I could just talk to people in the, the halls?
Oh, no. Wait for 5 minutes. Though. Wait.
All right. The Zoom stuff is killing me. I would just talk to people in, you know, real life, but we can't. All right.
It's like a pandemic and stuff.
I've heard.
Lots of compromises.
You know me on compromises. All right.
Len is there. And Ben is there, and I have not seen Robin reappear yet.
Okay, so we have a quorum.
Yes, we are currently 9.
Okay. All right, so members, any new business to discuss? Tom, Ushma? Yes.
I'd like to proudly report that we are up to 248 Twitter followers. But we got a fair bit of traffic tonight. I did live tweet.
Wait, that includes 11 of us too, right?
That includes any of us that are on Twitter. So I'd just like to say, when I took over as chief Twitterer for the CEC, I think we had under 200. So I would like to ask for a bonus. I'm kidding. But just further to what Ben was saying earlier about social media, I'm glad that it was mentioned in the bylaws, but I think the more that we paint ourselves into a corner by being specific, because I don't know, the next members might decide to start a Snapchat or a TikTok. I mean, heaven forbid what we would put on a CEC TikTok, but I don't know, Eric looks like he might have some moves. Anyways, we have gotten some amount of traffic on the Twitters. I think it's a nice venue. One thing I ended up forwarding to Eric was that there was a member of the parent community that asked for everything to also be posted on the Facebook page. That's all. That's my new business.
Night.
Robin?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Robin.
I'm sorry, I was stuffing food in my mouth, so I missed the beginning. I just wanted to let everyone know, we don't have to talk about it tonight, but I want to just plant the seed in everyone's head that, so we have our Zoom account allows the so the Zoom account is owned by the CEC. Right now, there's currently one administrative login, which is info@cecd2.net, which is supposed to be run by Yvette, but sometimes we have to tag team because life is complicated. We're currently paying for a version of Zoom that allows up to 11 other people be added as users, so that each council member could log in, and depending on what we decide as a group, could create meetings and run meetings, although not more than one meeting at a time. So what I think we need to just sort of decide is, we are paying extra for that. I forgot how much it is. I can make an email where I explain it, how much extra we're paying for that option. The upside is that, like, subcommittees, we can create our own accounts. We don't have one login that we're all sharing to, there's a little extra security. But then maybe there's a conflict if multiple people are just sort of logging in and creating accounts at the same time. If it's not centralized. So I think it's just something we should decide if we want to pay extra for that option. And then, so that's one piece. And then the other piece is just that I did figure out how to, this came up in our working business meeting, but we can now live stream. We are, like, this meeting right now is being live streamed on YouTube. So if people don't want to register to log in to the Zoom version, they can go to our YouTube channel and just watch it being streamed on YouTube. And I think those are my only points I wanted to make about that. So I'm going to put it in an email, but it was just sort of faster for me to give the context first.
Thank you, Robin. Tom?
Yeah, just real quick, I wanted to address a couple of good comments from the second public session. First was Stefan's comment for the show of good cause before removal. We did discuss that, and we did decide that if removing somebody from their position would be a 6-person majority would be required. The discussion of good cause was basically self-evident. Who would decide good cause? It would be a majority of the council anyway. So we felt that, at least I felt that with, and I think others agreed, that having a 6-person majority to remove a council member was enough. That was our thinking. It is what it is. And as far as, I know there's always gonna be discussion on who's in favor of screen schools, who's not. Everybody's evidence is anecdotal. I was just thinking, and I did bring up that we should do some polling. This was last May on this, to have some representative polling done. But now that I'm thinking of it, with the elections coming up, and I will not be running, so this will have nothing to do with me. This provides a good opportunity if we could tail onto the election, how parents, we get a huge turnout, how parents actually feel about polling. So it's not up to everybody doing their own independent polls, which give the results that they want. If we actually had a district-wide poll taken at the same time they vote for council members, that might be something we'd be interested in seeing. I don't know if anybody wanted to help me explore that. So that's why I'm throwing that up for new business.
You might want to ask Michelle, because at our noontime conference, she was talking about the procedure for voting this year.
That's true. Yeah, I was on that. Michelle, can we add on any, like, you know how when you have a public election, there are those questions that nobody reads ahead of time, and you know, you kind of look for it, it's yes or no. Can we do anything like that for our election, just to get a pulse of a few important issues for District 2 community?
Can be referendums?
Yeah, like referendum. We're not legalizing marijuana or anything like that. We're just figuring out if you know, screen schools are acceptable. Michelle, are you there? Sorry.
Don't know if
she wisely probably
we'll
took
bring
a
it.
break.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll bring it back.
Okay.
I'm guessing that because this is going to be DOE delivered, that is going to be highly unlikely.
Yeah,
I don't.
But it shouldn't be DOE
idea,
delivered,
but...
right? I mean, that's what I don't understand. Why would a city organization be running our state election? It's counterintuitive to me, but.
I'm just going to make a quick announcement that there is no public speaking session from any participants during the working business meeting. So I see a hand raised. Unfortunately, we are not going to be able to entertain commentary from our parent community. You're welcome.
Ushma, tell them to tweet at us. They can tweet at us.
Hey, and
I just
follow
wanted
us on Twitter.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify how the voting works in CEC. It's not the majority vote. It's always 6 votes affirmative. So even if there are only 7 people in the meeting for whatever reason, you still have to pass resolutions with 6 affirmative votes. So I don't want people to think if there are only 7 people in the meeting, you can pass a resolution with 4 votes. That's not how it works. So I just wanted
to. And is that enumerated in our bylaws that way?
Yes.
Now? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in the bylaws, but it's also based on the state.
It's actually the general construction law, which is
right.
not in the education law, but it applies to elected bodies.
Oh, that's convoluted.
So it's the majority of the whole, the statutory whole, not the actual whole. So like if there's a count, it just never happens on CEC 2, but if there's a CEC that doesn't fill all of its seats, they still have to have 6 to get a majority. I mean, to have to pass anything.
So in an absurd example, in a 5-person council, they could do anything and not get removed, huh?
But they just
pointing that out.
Well, if 5-person council is not a functional council, so the chancellor has to appoint members.
They can't even approve their minutes.
No, they can't have a meeting. They cannot have a meeting because they don't have a quorum.
I'll join nonetheless.
Okay, great, guys. Is there any other new business?
Quick thing.
Yes,
just
sir.
one quick thing. I'm just thinking about it because we were talking tonight. We never had a student member join the council, and I don't know. Maybe we could try and figure out where we were in that process. You know, not tonight. I just wanted to bring it up to keep it in everyone's mind. So that's it.
Yeah, it would be nice to have one in maybe even in January through the end of the term. It's always a good thing.
Well, we have a lot of time left, you know, in this term. I mean, we can get a lot accomplished, you know, from now until June. I mean, the district has a lot of needs, students in temporary housing, students with disabilities, and we can do a lot. And the more resources we have, if we have a student, that would be great. You guys have been great helping me out. Thank you very much for all of your work on the town.
I have some announcements. I'm sorry to butt in.
Yes, Sheena.
Okay. So capital plan. I didn't want to end the meeting.
Okay, capital plan.
The capital plan. So it's that time of the year again. I don't think they've sent us the amendment to the capital plan yet, but we should be reaching out to our principals for any capital improvement projects. So I'll work with Yvette and Ed to craft the message to principals, and we'll send it out to all the principals. So if there are any principals left in this room, expect an email from us. And we are trying to coordinate with the city council and the Manhattan Borough president because they have this Rizzo A process as well. The timing doesn't match up with ours, but we're going to try to coordinate as much as possible. I just wanted to let you guys all know that.
Sheena, were any of the plans submitted last January approved or started on?
We actually got a response that I will dig up and share with you all. Some of them were like, we will consider it, which is better than we can't do it. And most of them are, we can't do it because we're poor. But there were some that were being considered. So
if they're being considered, can we resubmit them?
We can always resubmit anything and everything. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, quick clarification, you are going to help coordinate already sending that out to the principals, or do you want us to amplify the message? What is it that you would like us to do?
So when we send out the message to principals, we'll ask you to follow up with your liaison schools to make sure that they got the notice and they'll fill it out. Yeah.
Great. Okay. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Aye.
Night.
Good night, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
It's 9:04.
Bye-bye.
You did great work.
Yeah. God. Oh, no, I'm mute.
You know what's so interesting about your meeting?